Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamrisha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Mukunamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Sundari Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Manchakalpatarusya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Tullaravindayatapatra netre Yena tvaya bharata taila purnaha Prajvalito jnanamaya pradipah Tapanna parijataya Putra Vaitraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha. We're going to start chapter 4 today. Transcendental knowledge. The connection is that in the previous chapter, Arjuna asked Krishna a question. There is a force inside us which makes us do sometimes things against our wish, which we know is wrong. But we become bound or forced by this energy to do something which is undesirable. What is that? And Krishna answered, that is lust. So Krishna spoke to Arjuna that lust, which is an enemy, can be conquered strategically. And for that, one has to make one's intelligence spiritually strong. How is that intelligence made spiritually strong is explained in chapter 4, through transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge basically means the knowledge about the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That's transcendental knowledge. So that's given in this chapter. Let's discuss the verses. First verse. Shri Bhagavano Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ikshvakave Bravit. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Lord Krishna is giving the historical um, importance of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, that this science is well tested. People in the past have been benefited from it. And this science was given not to ordinary people, Arjuna. It was given to great people. Great people have great responsibilities. So he's telling Arjuna, if you think your problem is very big, don't worry. This knowledge has helped many great people. So it will also be of help to you. So he's talking about the parampara system, right? In the purport, Prabhupada talks about the history of Bhagavad Gita. He explains how Bhagavad Gita has come to mankind. Let's read the purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants. And therefore, the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. Vaishnav, please read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita 5.52, it is stated, Yet Chakshur Esha Savita Sakala Grihanam Raja Samartha Sura Murtir Ashesha Tejaha Yat Yagnaya Brahmati Ambata Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Vajami. Let me worship, Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god, at present of the name Vivaswan, rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not, therefore, a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In the
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Suman Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna. In the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva 348.51 to 552, we can trace out the history of Gita as follows. Treta Yugadu Chatato Vivaswan Manave Dadau Manuscha Loka Bhartiya Ratham Sutyakshavake Dadau Ikshvanu Cha Kathito Vyapalokam Avastitaha. In the beginning of the millennium known as Treta Yuga, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet and the forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Gita existed in the human society for the time of Maharaja Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which was last 432,000 years. Before this, there were Dyaparug, and before that, there was Treta Yuga. Thus, some 2500 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad-gita to his disciple and son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated last some uh,
Just read the number. No, you don't have to give the exact.
okay, Prabhuji, 300,000 years ago, of which 40,000 have passed, excepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivaswan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago, and in human society it has been extant for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita. According to the Gita itself, and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna, it was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsa Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is a good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, this knowledge is a apurashreya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita their own ways, but that is not the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession, and it is described herein the Lord spoke to the sun god, the sun's god spoke to his son Manu, and the Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku. Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Very good. So this is the record given by Srila Prabhupada here. Vivaswan was Krishna's first disciple, and Vivaswan gave this knowledge to his son Manu, Vaivasvat Manu, who is the father of mankind. Um, and then some other he has calculated that this must have happened 120.4 million years ago. And then Ikshvaku Maharaj ruled over the planet Earth something like 2 million years ago. So he received the knowledge from his father Manu. And Krishna is now giving this knowledge to Arjuna. Right? So here we'll do an exercise. Assuming that you are in a leadership position, teacher, prime minister, CEO, MD, parent, temple president, etc. Give practical steps, maybe 2, 3, 4, or 5, to impart the teachings of Bhagavad Gita to your dependents by the following ways: by education, by culture, and by devotion. So how are we going to do it at our own level? Based on whatever responsible position we are holding. No one can say, I don't have any responsibility. I don't have any responsible position, right? So you can tell. So you can maybe take 5 to 10 minutes to note this. Plating over this. Someone would like to share. Please share in just one of the aspects, not all three, and then someone else can share the other aspect.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Uh, please share something which you can implement in your position as a leader, not that someone else should be doing. It should not be what you are going to suggest someone else that he should do or she should do. Here, the point is what you will be doing or what you can do in your area of influence.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Not a problem. Prabhu, as Prime Minister, let me talk with the Prime Minister. Prime Minister of a country, if I became a Prime Minister of a country, I just first refurbish the education systems by incorporating Bhagavad-gita in all the sectors of our education system. So we can keep the complete knowledge of Bhagavad-gita in every subject we can implement in it. So I mentioned that education has to be 5 to the Prime Minister. Whereas automatically culture will be developed along with the education is made. Obviously, the devotion also will be, however, increases. So as a Prime Minister, I will consider 5 to the education, 4 to the culture, and devotion for 3. Whereas teachers also will do the same. As a teacher, I will give the education more important with giving the Bhagavad-gita knowledge with 5 points with that. So when education is improved, automatically devotional services, devotional thought process will increase with our Bhagavad-gita is implemented in our mind. So automatically the culture also improves. So the position of education as a priority of 5, devotion 4, and culture will be 3. When coming to the CEO will always
No,
look on.
it's not like that. You don't have
Okay.
to give us like answers to each of these positions. We are just giving you an example that you might be a CEO, you might be a teacher, you might be a parent. Based
Okay.
on what you are at present, you have to give steps which you can implement. Not someone else can implement, or if I will be in that position, I will be implementing. Whoever you are at present, at whatever level of responsibility you are carrying at present, how will you implement this teaching of Bhagavad Gita?
Can I?
Through
Hare Krishna.
education, through culture, through devotion. See here, first of all, you should know, Prabhupada is not asking us to uh, find the steps, what will lead to what. Implementing the teachings of Gita through education is one way of doing it. Implementing the teachings of Gita through culture is another way of doing it. And implementing the teachings of Gita through devotion is another way of doing it. Right? So just like one student has put in the text message that being a teacher, I can teach them to say Hare Krishna instead of saying hello, ma'am. We can organize dramas in schools, which where children will recite the shlokas, right? So yes, so drama is a cultural presentation of Bhagavad Gita. Through culture, you are giving. And education, you can, through culture, when you say Hare Krishna, not hello ma'am, that's also another aspect of culture, right? That through culture, you're teaching them how to be Krishna conscious or the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So I wanted to answer something like that. Okay. First of all,
Prabhuji, can I try?
put your hand down if it's just for reading or some other purpose. If you want to contribute, then you keep your hand up.
Can I try, Prabhuji?
Let me call out the names, no, please.
Okay.
Yes, let me call out the names. If you want to contribute, first raise your hand, please. Yes. So all of you have got to say something. So just um, keep it short so that everyone gets a chance. Okay? Don't put so many points, 1 or 2, but good points, reasonable points, 1 or 2 points. Yeshamala Mataji. You have to first tell what role you are identifying with, and in that role, through education or culture or devotion, how you are going to implement.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. As a mother at home, uh, teaching to my children what I'm learning shastras from in your classes or whatever classes I'm hearing, I'm trying to teach to my children, reading every day with my children. That is, vice versa, both are learning and teaching is happening at our home. And culture, from childhood, we are associated with temple, and we are teaching how to Vaishnava etiquette, out Vaishnava culture. We are every day we are teaching, and it has to done like this. You have to do like this every day. He's there respecting all the senior devotees, Hare Krishna and Haripul. They are everything. They are learning culture. They're following it, and as a parent, what we are telling, they are hearing. And third, devotion. What we are implementing devotion is they are learning harmonium and mridangam and kirtan. They are doing at temple. They are really by kirtan. Their devotion they can feel, and through the music, through the kirtan, they are really they are involving and enjoying that. So in that way, devotion to our children we are encouraging, and at the same time, I am following taking classes and Bhakti-sastri, doing like this. I'm improving myself devotion. This is practically implementation in our life. We are implementing, Prabhu. So this is the way
Okay, thank
education,
you.
culture, and devotion we are doing.
Fine, thank you very much. All right. Harneet Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as a leader of an organization, as you already mentioned about Hare Krishna, the entire staff, they may belong to any community, including clients. I mean, everybody, it's taken me 2 years, but everybody greets me with a Hare Krishna, including my clients. So that's one very big difference. That is one. Second is engaging my team in seva to serve the devotees who are spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. So that I would count as devotion. And third, I'll keep it very short. I have several points, but I'll just say one more, is that when I take my team to offsite, I make it a point that we visit iskcon temple wherever we are going, and we have one prasadam at the iskcon temple. So that makes a very, very big difference. I mean, I've seen people who belong to different faith, and because they are so engaged with their team, they would make video calls and show it to their team members. Look, I'm in the iskcon temple. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm buying for you. So that makes a very, very big difference to everybody. And they really don't mind saying, Hare Krishna. I mean, that's what I feel. And third, just one more point I'll say, Prabhuji, is inspiring them to try and give up non-veg. That is something that that as a teaching of Bhagavad-gita, what happens when you eat non-veg. So those are practical steps, but I think makes a difference.
Thank you, Mataji. All right. Also, if some devotee has shared some point and it's a repetition what you are going to share, then omit sharing. Like, for example, Shamala Mataji has already shared as a parent what she is going to do. So if as a parent, you are going to do something different, then you share. If it's going to be the same, then it's okay. We'll save time and go to the next verse. Vaichi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So first, as a law professor, what I can do is I can ask the students to do a comparison between the principles that are there in the Bhagavad-gita and how it is implemented in the current legal system. For example, the concept of violence that we spoke about. So what does maybe the Indian Penal Code has to say on that, right? And what does the Bhagavad-gita say? And what are their takeaways on that? So I can possibly have an essay competition maybe on something like that, or maybe it can be part of their presentation. So that's one thing that I would do as a professor. And as a mother, one thing that we have started, as a family is every time I send a message to them, because, one of my kids is outside India. And so what we do is normally the common group I actually start all my messages by saying Hare Krishna. It is not just, for the, devotee group, but this habit I'm trying to inculcate. And anytime they've been in a ward or anything like that, it's always, ensuring that, there is Hare Krishna or some sloka or Ogram, this thing associated with that. Prabhuji. Those are the two things that I will try to do, and I'm trying to do as well. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Chadan Prabhu. Unmute yourself, please, before you start.
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I tried to be short. I would spread your course around to every other devotee. As I'm based in UK, also Keshav Swami Maharaj does some wonderful classes. He's got School of Bhakti. I just basically just spread the word around about your course and Keshav Swami Maharaj. And also I'm based in UK. I've been a 2-year devotee. We get a lot of Indian university students coming to the iskcon temple. I just try to make them feel welcome. So that's the two things I can mention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Daniela Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I work in ministry, so I would think that for education, I can talk with my senior officers, some senior management, that we can organize a seminar or talks. So I can invite some prominent person to come and talk about the Bhagavad-gita to the public officers here who are interested in this. And by culture, it's by our character itself, that if you present yourself very nicely like a devotee, so they will obviously see something in you that is good to apply. And also can invite them for festival like Janmashtami, Harinam, all this. And devotion is, we give them a chance to participate in some, like offering flowers to the deities. If ever we have some seminar going, so we can do a prayer before starting it like this.
Okay, thank you. Swati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please
Actually,
quick. Yeah.
yeah, I have an office actually of mine in the mall. So I usually wear sari and wear tilak. Weekly once I conduct a Bhagavad-gita class for my staff. We have 25 people in our office.
That's
So
very nice.
whatever you teach us or my Shiksha Guru teaches us, I try to explain them in that way. In yearly twice I arrange one satsang from in my office, and even my staff, they recite shlokas and they in front of my Shiksha Guru. So this is going on for last 3 years, and because of that, even my staff has become so positive, and the customers who are coming are also feeling so nice that how you can do this thing, how you can start this thing in office where staff is also positive. And even if I don't take, when I'm out or something, our staff is so waiting for that class, so they have become so positive. I distribute prasad weekly once when I take Bhagavad Gita class. Even the mall people, they also feel, how you wear sari? Nobody wears sari in this mall. So I feel nice when they tell this, that they are finding difference in me because of this. I always say Hare Krishna. That is every day. Our staff also greets everyone in saying Hare Krishna. This is thing. And one more thing, my relatives, I try to tell them to go for 3 days Bhagavad Gita, which is organized in iskcon. So with that also, most of our relatives have started understanding Bhagavad Gita. This is what I do usually. And my son also, I take him to classes in Bhagavad Gita in the temple, Jew temple.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Devesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavad. So Prabhuji, in different roles, like when dealing with team members, we actually emphasize on the essence or the importance of Bhagavad Gita, that how it should be used as a manual for your life, just like you have a prescription written on all medicines. So example of Prabhupada also. So that way we should be referring to the Bhagavad Gita, and you should always be having it on yourself to refer to it, the different shlokas which are, in every aspect of your life, whenever there is an issue, and respective shlokas can be recited or implemented. Like currently also, to my internal groups and all, I've been giving all the shlokas, the ones on which you have taken a class, the 108 shlokas. I've been recording and giving it to my internal teams who forward it further, and they're pretty happy with that. That is one thing. Secondly, when I'm going for my yoga classes also, when we are doing pranayam and different kinds of alone vilom and all, during the breathing time also, I tell them that, when you're taking a deep inhalation, you recite the Maha Mantra at that time internally. At the time of inhaling and exhaling, you recite the whole mantra, so that will also have tremendous effect on the mental aspect. Then in the family also, like, I have incorporated this culture of with the kids that, you read the Bhagavad-gita daily, at least one shlok. And in the devotion daily in our house temple, you have a culture of reading the Gita internally within the family and share the interpretation of the shlokas. So these are the things, Prabhuji, I've been doing in different roles so far. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Sada Harina Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, being I would like to tell as a Bhakti Riksha head or a member. So as a Bhakti Riksha member, considering that there are diverse cultures and diverse educational backgrounds people are coming from, we would like to introduce the culture of devotion. And in the sense that everybody likes peace of mind. So when that is the subject matter which interests everyone, I want to dovetail our teachings of Bhagavad-gita in such a way that people not only look for external peace, but internal peace. So this would be the theme. And with that, would like to introduce in some kind of a meditative sessions, which with the help of our Hare Krishna teachings and Bhagavad-gita teachings, and introduce a culture of devotion, in which the desire is to include all cultures and diverse backgrounds with a simple theme that we come together to develop inner peace. And when we develop inner peace, we can expand that to other areas of our interest. So in this can come education, in this can come also the culture, and so that everyone is involved in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and the meaning of devotion, true meaning of devotion, that is love of Godhead.
All right, thank you. Okay, so a few more hands are up. Please be quick. Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So from a teacher point of view, when my class, we have weekly classes. So when my class and my students are not in class for the rest of the week, because we only have one day in a week, I keep them, or I send short messages, short video messages about shlokas. There's plenty of them that you can download from YouTube, etc. So on a daily basis, just to keep them in touch with Krishna, and a shloka and a message from Krishna is what I do. When I make friends or engage with anyone or associate with anyone as a tester, I send them one of these videos, and essentially I ask, is this something that you like? Can you see benefit or value in it? And in a slow, gradual progress, I have built up a group and a following where daily I kind of spread that particular message of Krishna somewhere, somehow. And generally, from an advice point of view, if I'm unable to give a story or relate to advice given from either Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad-gita, I then look up and research, because there's many Prabhus and Matajis who give valuable information and teachings on YouTube, and get that and forward that to people who come to me for advice and, just general direction and, that. So that's what I do. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Nehal Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Two things that I have done by the mercy of Lord Krishna is me being a housewife, I have told my workers that come to my house to follow Ekadashi Vrata. Okay, if they start following Ekadashi Vrata, in their home also they can carry Krishna. And they are always in, most of them are always in trouble. So, you know, what I do is give them Krishna Prasadam here, try to make them do Ekadashi Vrata, even tell them to encourage their husbands and children to do Ekadashi Vrata. This is one way of doing. And the another way is there is a semi-slum area wherein there are many students that come on every Sunday from 6 to 7, and we introduce them with Bhagavad-gita, and in a very story form. We have a smart TV there, so they basically come to see Krishna movies. And as Krishna movies, we make them see every time one story about Krishna, and then introduce them to little bit Bhagavad Gita, the background, how many shlokas are there, who said this to whom, and everything this way. So this is how we have tried to do the propagation of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Srishti.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I am a medical student and I'm doing my internship here in the hospital. And I'm working in the palliative station, so the patients were going to die. And every time a doctor comes to me and says to me, this patient is probably going to die today or tomorrow. So if the patient is able to speak, I tell them, just chant with me one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So it's in the hospital, everybody is rushing, but I try to find this time to at least go to that patient who is going to die soon. And if when that patient dies, I also go to that room and chant the mantra in their ears. And I was also in the newborn station a lot. So the children who just got in contact with this material world, I sing in front of them a little bit, just not too loudly, but at least so that they can hear. And right now we're doing a study in neurology, how mantra meditation, it's not spiritual in this way, but how mantra meditation and people who are into spirituality, so people who are in our iskcon temple, they're participating in that study. So we're doing MRIs and how it can affect their hormonal system in a positive way. So I know this is a very on a material basic, but it's easier to explain to patients that there have been scientific studies how it can affect your body also and your mind also when you focus on a mantra. Or yes, it's not in the devotional way, but at least that they can get to know the material benefits of chanting and reading about spirituality.
Thank you. Okay, we'll stop here. Let's go to the next verse. 4.2. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshyo viduhu sakaline mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Lalita Prishta Gopi Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna, Dana Pranam, Babaji. It's clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling all the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad-gita was never meant for the demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to reestablish the disciplined succession. 5,000 years ago, it was dictated by the Lord himself that the disciplined succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment, also, there are so many editions of Gita, especially in English. But almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different Monday scholars, but almost all of them don't accept the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic because demons don't believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great, what was it? Pamji, can you help to scroll down? Great want. Bhagavad-gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity. But if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it's simply a waste of time. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. स एवायं मया तेत्य योगः प्रोक्त पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यं हि एतदुत्तमम्. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Shri Deepada.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. There are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science owing to his being a devotee of the Lord. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotee is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept Lord Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. Here is a warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited by this great science of Srimad Bhagavad-gita. Hare Krishna.
Arjuna Uvacha. So now when Krishna says this thing to Arjuna, that I'm going to impart this knowledge to you again, Arjuna is going to make a very logical question. That you said you gave this knowledge to Sun God. How is it possible? Arjuna Uvacha aparang bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah katham etad vijaniyam tam ado proktavaniti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? We know from Mahabharata, Krishna and Arjuna were equal age. Yudhishthira and Bhim were elder. Nakul and Sahadev were younger. And Krishna and Arjuna were equal age. So I was just saying, come on, we were born together. How did you tell all this to sun god? And when did you tell all this to sun god? Now, such questions are asked by knowledgeable people in order to reveal the transcendental position of the Supreme Lord. So that a difference is created, that Krishna is not an ordinary human being. Krishna does not have an age like we have. She's asking this question to Krishna. And now Prabhupada is going to begin to explain the transcendental knowledge. This is the transcendental knowledge. Krishna's identity. Who is Krishna? How is he not an ordinary human being? This is transcendental knowledge. Purport. Divya Vishwambarita.
Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord. So how could he not believe Krishna's word? The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them, only Arjuna inquires on this point as if he were himself not aware of the Personality of Godhead or Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything and the last word in the transcendence. Of course, Krishna also appeared as the son of Devaki on this earth. How Krishna remained the same personality of Godhead or eternal original person is very difficult for an ordinary man understand. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. That Krishna is the supreme personality, supreme authority is accepted by the whole world. Not only at present, but from time immemorial. And the demons alone reject him anyway, since Prabhupada, just come down to a little. I am saying it. Okay. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons, who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and their followers. It is necessary that everyone, for his own interest, know the signs of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations by Krishna himself may appear to be strange because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint. But those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. The devotee will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man may in this way come to know that Krishna is the superhuman, that he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental and that he is above. No, just come down, please. He is above the dominations of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. A devotee of Krishna like Arjuna is undoubtedly above any misunderstandings of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being, subject to the modes of material nature. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. So here in the next few verses, this is the subject that will be explained. In verses 5 and 6, Krishna's appearance and disappearance will be explained. 7 and 8, Krishna's activities, when and why he appears. And 9 and 10, the result of understanding this transcendent. Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natang veda parantapa. The personality of God had said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. O subduer of the enemy. So Arjuna asked, how do you remember everything? Krishna says, we both have lived for many times. It's not our first birth, but I remember everything. You cannot, right? Then Arjuna will say, why not me? And Krishna will say in the next verse, because I am Bhagavan, I am God, and you're not. Ajopi Sannavyayatma. So this difference has been created, that Krishna's identity is his supreme personality of Godhead. It's God. In the Prabhupada explains how Krishna appears time and again in different forms, and his body does not change. Yes. Shamala Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Purport in the Brahma Samhita 5.33, we have information of many incarnations of the Lord. It is stated there, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anandam, Anantarupam, Adhyayam, Purana, Purusham, Navayavvanam cha, Vedeshu, Durlabam, Adurlabam, Atma, Bhaktav, Govindam, Adi Purusham, Tamaham, Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning. Although expanding into unlimited forms, he is still the same original, the oldest, and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually not understood by even the best Vedic scholars, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. It is also stated in Brahma Samhita 5.39, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Nirmana Tishtam Nanavataram Akrod Bhuvaneshu Krintu Krishnaha Swayam Samabhavat Parama Pumanyo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda Krishna, who is always situated in the various incarnations such as Rama, Narsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well, but who is the original personality of Godhead known as Krishna, and who incarnates personally also.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In the Vedas also it is said that the Lord, although one without a second, manifests himself in innumerable forms. He is like the Vaidurya stone, which changes color yet still remains one. All those multiforms are understood by the pure, unalloyed devotees, but not by a simple study of the Vedas. Vedeshu Durlabham, Adurlabham, Atma Bhaktav. Devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord, and whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. Arjuna is one of these devotees, and in this verse it is understood that some millions of years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad-gita to the sun god Vivaswan, Arjuna in a different capacity was also present. But the difference between the Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. That is the difference between the part and parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in his various past births.
Someone else, right? You have to take water. Yes, Tulsi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible, achyuta, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects, even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna. Although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord. But by the divine grace of a devotee, it can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord, whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand this transcendental nature. Consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demonic brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note herein that a living entity forgets everything due to his change of body, but the Lord remembers because he does not change his Satchit Ananda body. He is Advaita, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relation to him is spirit, whereas the conditioned soul is different from his material body. And because the Lord's body are self and self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity, even when he descends to the material platform. The demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following verse. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, long explanation, pretty simple, what he wants to convey. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim samadhishtaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Although I'm unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So Krishna has a form. In any incarnation he comes, he has that form for eternity, even in the spiritual world. There is no form which is newly discovered, newly invented. Those forms exist always. In different Vaikuntha lokas, in different forms, he remains. And he appears in that form, in his transcendental form. It's just that there might be some differences. Like, for example, when he came as Matsya Avatar. So in material world, he is taking the form of a fish. But in Vaikuntha, Lord Matsya is not present in the form of a fish. Right? In Vaikuntha, Lord Matsya is four-handed Vishnu form only. Right? So those slight variations might be there, but those are eternal forms. Is purport. Hare
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandakumam. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many, many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature as well as Swarupa or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is the Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes birth like an ordinary living entity. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never goes beyond youth. At the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of being in the material world, he is the same unborn eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun is set. And when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position. But owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of an ordinary common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful knowledge by his internal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures although confirm that even though Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana with four hands and the decorations of six kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy, bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which the impersonalists wrongly think the Lord's forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy according to Vishwakosha Dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearances. But a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
You have a question?
Here, Maya or Atma Maya, both are different, Prabhu, not different, right?
Atma means my. Maya means mercy, or my energy. The word Maya can have multiple meanings, right? Generally, we have considered this meaning, which is illusion. Maya, that which is not. But another meaning of the word Maya is mercy, like Mayapur. So Mayapur is not a place of illusion, it's a place of mercy.
Yes, yeah.
So here he's saying Atma Maya, which means out of my own mercy I appear. out of my own.
Okay.
Prabhupada even writes in the purport, his appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy, so that the living entities can concentrate upon him as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations. Right? Next verse. Yayat yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata buddhanam dharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself whenever and wherever. Shishtim.
Hare Krishna. The word Srijapi is significant herein. Srijami cannot be used in the sense of creation, because according to the previous verse, there is no creation of the Lord's form or body, since all of the forms are eternally existent. Therefore, Srijami means that the Lord manifests himself as he is. Although the Lord appears on schedule, namely at the end of Dwapara Yuga, of the 28th millennium of the 8th Manu in one day of Brahma, still he has no obligation to adhere to such rules and regulations because he is completely free to act in many ways at his will. He therefore appears by his own will whenever there is a predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion. Principles of religion are laid down in the Vedas, and any discrepancy in the matter of properly executing the rules of the Vedas makes one irreligious. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that such principles are the laws of the Lord. Only the Lord can manufacture a system of religion. The Vedas are also accepted as originally spoken by the Lord himself to Brahma from within his heart. Therefore, the principles of dharma or religion are the direct orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. These principles are clearly indicated throughout the Bhagavad-gita. The purpose of the Vedas is to establish such principles under the order of the Supreme Lord, and the Lord directly orders at the end of the Gita that the highest principle of religion is to surrender unto him only, and nothing more. The Vedic principles push one towards complete surrender unto him. And whenever such principles are disturbed by the demonic, the Lord appears. From the Bhagavatam, we understand that Lord Buddha is the incarnation of Krishna who appeared when materialism was rampant and materialists were using the pretext of authority of the Vedas. Although there are certain restrictive rules and regulations regarding animal sacrifice for particular purposes in the Vedas, people of demonic tendencies still took to animal sacrifice without reference to the Vedic principles. Lord Buddha appeared to stop this nonsense and to establish the Vedic principles of nonviolence. Therefore, each and every avatar or incarnation of the Lord has a particular mission, and they are all described in the revealed scriptures. No one should be accepted as an avatar unless he is referred to by scriptures. It is not a fact that the Lord appears only on Indian soil. He can advance himself anywhere and everywhere and whenever he desires to appear. In each and every incarnation, he speaks as much about religion as can be understood by the particular people under their particular circumstances. But the mission is the same, to lead people to God consciousness and obedience to the principles of religion. Sometimes he descends personally, and sometimes he sends his bona fide representative in the form of his son, or servant, or himself in some disguised form.
Thank you, Shishti. Next paragraph. Swati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The principles of Bhagavad-gita were spoken to Arjuna and for that matter to other highly elevated persons because he was highly advanced compared to to ordinary persons in other part of the world. 2 plus 2 equal 4 is a mathematical principle that is true in the beginners arithmetic class and in the advanced class as well. Still, There are higher and lower mathematics in all incarnations of the Lord. Therefore, the same principles are taught, but they appear to be higher and lower in varied circumstances. The higher principles of religion begin with the acceptance of four orders and the four statuses of the social life. As will be explained later, the whole purpose of the mission of incarnations is to arouse Krishna consciousness everywhere. Such consciousness is manifest and non-manifest only under different circumstances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada writes in the purpose, same mission, different forms. Yeah. And this broadness is acceptable or is accepted only in Vaishnava thoughts. In other religions, other paths, they have weird ideas. But only Vaishnavas can understand that because Krishna is supremely merciful, Krishna appears in innumerable ways to help the jivas. Right? And the more one becomes pure in heart, the more one is able to appreciate this broad-mindedness and magnanimity of Krishna. Right? And that's Vaishnava path. So Krishna appears in different forms, in different ways, at different places, at different times to teach something and help that person move forward, move ahead. The principles of the Bhagavad-gita were spoken to Arjuna, and for that matter to other highly elevated persons, because he was highly advanced compared to ordinary persons in other parts of the world. 2 plus 2 equals 4 is a mathematical principle. That is true in the beginner's arithmetic class and in the advanced class as well. Still, there are higher and lower mathematics. In all incarnations of the Lord, therefore, the same principles are taught, but they appear to be higher and lower in varied circumstances. And this also holds true, not only like when we talk about the whole planet. So this principle holds true. This holds true even within an institute. Let's say iskcon. So iskcon has a variety of people joining, who are joining at different levels. So the self-realized pure devotee of Krishna knows what is whose level. And based on that, the self-realized pure devotee of Krishna gives instructions, practical guidelines. And because we want to generalize everything, or we want to put everything in the same box because of our limited, narrow understanding, we keep on fighting and debating and arguing which instruction is to be followed, which not to be followed. Why this instruction to you and why that instruction to me? Why different standards of execution of Krishna consciousness? So much of chaos happens even within an institute, especially if the institute is as big as our institute with millions of followers. Millions of followers means millions of varieties of consciousness. And though the path is the same, but because they are not the same, different acharyas, different spiritual masters, different siksha gurus, they make the process in a way that it will become acceptable to them and they'll start following. In which they may emphasize on certain things and they may not emphasize on certain things, which the other spiritual master may not emphasize upon or may emphasize upon. Right? Therefore, as a practitioner, we need not compare what other Vaishnavas have been instructed to do and whether they are right or wrong, because we don't know what is the level of that Vaishnava. We should focus on what we are told to do, and we should continue to do without comparing. That's so important. I was just thinking, like a thought came to my mind when His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj departed physically from this world. That if you look at his life, he didn't try to be others. You know, he didn't try to be others. That there were devotees in our movement who speak very lofty philosophies, you know, give very nice classes, make very impressive presentations of the Siddhanta. But Maharaj never tried to do that, isn't it? When I say he never tried to do that, what I'm trying to say is that if a person is a conditioned soul will always compare. The other Acharya, the other Vaishnava is doing something, why not me? Why not me? I should also. You know why we do that? We do that many times because of a sense of insecurity, right? But if you look at his life, or you look at the life of any exalted personality, they hardly care that what the other god brother, god sister, or devotee or disciple is doing. You know, they are happy with that devotee if that devotee is doing what that devotee spiritual master has asked him or her to do. And they are happy doing what their spiritual master asked them to do. So if you look at Maharaj's life, how interesting it is that Prabhupada gave him some instructions and he kept his life always around those instructions. He didn't try to become someone else. You know, that I should also lead very nice kirtans. I should also give very nice long classes. I should also do some innovative types of preaching. No, Prabhupada gave him an instruction of being the backbone of iskcon in one sense. You know, you protect iskcon. You be the iskcon man. iskcon is your responsibility. And how do we know that? Because Prabhupada made him chairman of everything. GBC, you know, of India, bureau chairman, BBT chairman, which means like, you know, this is your baby. You handle it. And Maharaj just did that. He just did that. And just doing that, what happened? I was amazed that when he was present, people, they admired him, they loved him, but it did not come off so much, you know. But when he left, you know, the ocean of love that was, you know, experienced by the devotees when he left, you know, something historical, something which is like, which our ISKCON society will not forget, you know, what happened and what kind of um, appreciation he drew towards himself from the leaders, from even the smallest devotees in the movement. That is so amazing, so amazing, so amazing. So that broad-mindedness is there. Then I have been given some process by my spiritual master, by my gurus, and I should just stick to that. And others are given something. They stick to that, and we follow that. You know, that broad-mindedness is only possible in Vaishnava path, nowhere else, because there'll be envy, there'll be competitive mentality, and that was not there. So this is the sign of surrender and dedication, not the external things that we generally think of as the sign of dedication or surrender. This is what is important, right? So we as individual devotees should always think how Krishna came in my life. And what are expectations from me? And let my life revolve around fulfilling those expectations. If I do that, then whatever happening is around what other devotees are doing, that is not very, very, very important. If I can be of some help, why not? If I can do something to assist them, why not? But I have to be focused on what I am told to do, right? And if you do that, success is for sure because you have done what you are supposed to do, right? So that's amazing about Maharaj's life. It is so wonderful. And he left a beautiful example for people to follow. Okay. Let's go to the next verse. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Nagarajan.
Hare Krishna. According to Bhagavad-gita, a sadhu, holy man, is a man in Krishna consciousness. A person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has a qualification of Krishna consciousness, wholly or fully, he is to be understood to be a sadhu. And dushkritam applies to those who do not care for Krishna consciousness. Such miscreants or dushkritam are described as foolish and the lowest of mankind, even though they may be decorated with mundane education, whereas a person who is 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness is accepted as a sadhu. Even though such a person may be neither learned nor well cultured. As far as the atheistic are concerned, it is not necessary to destroy them, as he did with the demons Ravana and Kamsa. The Lord has many agents who are quite competent to vanquish demons. But the Lord especially descends to appease his unalloyed devotees, who are always harassed by the demonic. The demon harasses the devotee, even though later may happen to be his kin. Although Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu, he was nonetheless persecuted by his father. Although Devaki, the mother of Krishna, was sister of Kamsa, she and her husband Vasudeva were persecuted only because Krishna was to be born of them. So Lord Krishna appeared primarily to deliver Devaki rather than kill Kamsa, but both were performed simultaneously. Therefore, it is said here that to deliver the devotee and vanquish the demon miscreant, the Lord appears in different incarnations. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadasa Kaviraja, the following verses, Madhya 20.263 to 64, summarizes these principles of incarnation. Srishti Hetuye Murti Prapane Avatare Se Ishvara Murti Avatara Namadare Maya Tita Paravyome Sabara Avasthana Vishwe Avatari Dare Avatara Nama. The Avatara or incarnation of Godhead descends from the kingdom of God for material manifestation. And the particular form of personality of Godhead whoso descends is called an incarnation or avatara. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatara.
Thank you.
Correct.
Pavani Mataji.
There are various kinds of avatars such as Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Leela avatars, Shaktyavesha avatars, Manvantara avatars, and Yuga avatars, all appearing on schedule all over the universe. But Lord Krishna is the primeval Lord, the fountainhead of all avatars. Lord Sri Krishna descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of the pure devotees who are very anxious to see him in his original Vrindavana pastimes. Therefore, the prime purpose of the Krishna Avatara is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. Shall I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
The Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium. This indicates that he incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtana movement, congregational chanting of the holy names, and spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtana would be broadcast all over the world, from town to town and village to village. Lord Chaitanya, as the incarnation of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is described secretly but not directly in the confidential parts of the revealed scriptures, such as the Upanishads, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam. The devotees of Lord Krishna are very much attracted by the Sankirtana movement of Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of the Lord does not kill the miscreants but delivers them by his causeless mercy.
I'm sorry, I had network disconnection. Are you able to hear me? Yes?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So the process of bhakti will deliver the devotee, as mentioned in 14.26. If one engages in unalloyed devotional service, one becomes transcendentally situated. One gets delivered. So why does Krishna appear personally then? So Prabhupada explains in the purport. He descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxiety of the pure devotees who are very anxious to see him in his original Vrindavan pastimes. Right? So the purpose of Krishna's appearance is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. That's the main reason he comes. Other things are byproducts. And then different types of avatars are mentioned. Purusha, Guna, Leela, right? Manvantara, Yuga avatar, and Shakti Avesh avatar. Types of avatar. Want to know more about them? Then you can read in the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. There's a specific section dedicated to this topic, types of avatars. And they are innumerable, just like the innumerable waves in an ocean, uncountable. Now, if one knows all this, what happens then? Next verse. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataham tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti swarjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Gunagraya Gampra.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So that the Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the sixth verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting his present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from the material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalist and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and the activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending his body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 5.33, it is stated that the Lord has many forms and incarnations. Advaita Achyuta Anadi Ananta Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers, as stated in the Vedas. Purusha Bodhini Upanishad. Would you please call down? So, Devanitya
Leelanurakto.
Nilanurakto Bhakto Vayapi Hriday Antaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many transcendental forms in the relationship with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculation, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tat Tebam Ashi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone, where is that? Okay, anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tam eva vidhati mrityum yati nanya pantha vidhayate vanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no other way to achieve this perfection. Yeah, that there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personal Godhead is surely in the mood of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad-gita according to the mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. What does it mean to know in truth? Tatvataha. Here it said, do you know in truth? No more birth and death. What does it mean to know in truth? Tatvataha.
What has directly come from scriptures or from the
Parampara.
authentic knowledge.
Okay. What else? What does it mean to know in truth? Tatvataha. What you are saying is basically, if you hear from the right source, you know. That's Tatvataha.
Yes.
Is that all?
Lord Krishna is the supreme.
That is there. Now, how does it happen that when you know Tatvataha in a truth?
Knowledge come from the parampara.
Realization, Prabhuji, param realization.
Or from the spiritual master.
From spiritual master. Prabhupada explains in a lecture. Now here the word Tattvata is very important. Tattvata is the science of Krishna and means in truth. It's not enough to know by historical facts that Krishna is born on such and such date, in such and such place, in such and such family, and then he did such and such activities. One must learn them in Tattvata, in truth. Then he becomes free from this bodily entanglement. How can one understand the science of Krishna? Again, the same question. How can you know in truth? It is explained in the 18th chapter that Krishna's science can be understood by devotional service, by bhakti. Bhaktya mam abhi janati. By devotional service, one can know Krishna in truth. Now, what it means to know, what it means to do devotional service, it means to engage in the activities of bhakti, sadhana bhakti, to start with. The 9 types of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasena, right? To engage in those activities practically, that is what will help to know Krishna in truth. And if you know Krishna in truth, then you become free from these 3 things. What are those 3 things? These 3 things. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa uta mad bhavam agataha. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Ratanangi Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep this same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic men, the form of gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the supreme to be impersonal. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again, and so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence attainable without individual personality. This is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all, being embraced by so many theories being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all three stages of attachment to the material world: negligence of spiritual life, fear of spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that arises from frustration in life. To get free from these three stages of material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. According to Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 1.4.15 to 16, the science of devotional service, अथो श्रद्धा तथा साधु संगो अथ भजन क्रिया ततो अनर्थ निवृत्ति स्यात् ततो निष्ठा रुचिस्तथा अतः शक्तिस्ततो भावस्तथा प्रेमाभ्युदानि ध्यानचित्ति सदा कानाम अयं प्रेम्णा प्रादुर्भवे भवेत् kamaha. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service, under the guidance of spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. In the prema stage, there is a constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So being freed from Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Rag means attachment, Bhaya means fear, Krodha means anger. Being freed from this, one can attain transcendental love for Krishna. So how is this explained? It's explained in this way. Why does a material life of a living entity exist? It exists because of a tendency to enjoy material. Simple. There is attachment to enjoy materially, right? So that's called rag. And we call that materialism. After you have sufficiently tried to enjoy materially, we know those efforts are going to go in vain, maybe in 1 life or 2 lives or 10 lives or 100 lives, right? So then that leads to a certain kind of consciousness, which is born of bhaya, of fear, and that's impersonalism. What is impersonalism? Impersonal, basically, I'll give you an example. I want something from you. As long as you give to me, I'll talk nicely to you. That's materialism. The day you stop giving to me, I become indifferent towards you. That's impersonalism. Right? Understanding? Simple. I want something from you. I have some desires to fulfill from you. That's materialism. The day you stop fulfilling my desires, I'll start neglecting you. That's impersonalism. Right? Neglect. You don't respect that person's existence. You don't value that person's existence. You don't treat that person properly. It can be for a person, it can be for thing, it can be for goals, it can be for objectives, it can be for anything. It can be for life also. Right? And then when this bhaya, this fear multiplies to a great extent, then it becomes anger, frustration. And that is voidism. What is voidism? Because you are not going to give me what I want, I'll destroy you or I'll destroy myself. I'll destroy the whole world. I'll destroy my life. Means finish. Finish everything. You die and death will bring peace. Right? So that leads to voidism. So this now when a person is on the level of raga, his consciousness is full of raga. All the philosophies that person will talk will be philosophies of materialism. Fine. When that person is his consciousness or her consciousness affected by bhaya, all that that person will talk will be impersonalism. And when that person's consciousness is afflicted by intense krodha, then whatever that person will say or think or have, any knowledge that person expresses or demonstrates any knowledge, that will be affected by voidism. Right? Right. And Krishna is saying here that if you know this knowledge, you become free from all these three. And you rise to proper understanding through which you come back to me. Vitaraga bhaya krodha. All right, we'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Chetan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. There are some like Sampradaya, they're very well organized and got lots of followers, but they might not be bona fide in that chain. What happens to the devotees?
I did not understand your question. Can you repeat, please?
Okay, sorry. I'm not very good with expressing myself. I try my best. I believe there's a lot of sampradayas out there, but they're not following the chain, but they're quite well organized and they got a lot of followers. Like iskcon is part of the Lord Brahma and Lord Chaitanya chain, but there's some sampradayas not really following the chain, but they have a lot of people following and they're quite well organized. So what happens to the devotees?
That doesn't matter whether they are organized or not organized. That's not going to decide the goal that they are going to achieve. Right? It doesn't matter. You are doing a wrong thing in an organized manner, it still remains wrong. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And you may do the right thing in a non-organized manner, it still remains right. So that's not connected, whether they are organized or not. Many institutes are there. So if they are not following the bona fide path, they will not get the result which a bona fide practitioner is going to get. They'll continue with the material life. Right? There are many religions or there are many institutes who teach morality, which is a part of religion or dharma, but they don't teach transcendental knowledge. So if they are following some moral principles, they'll get some piety, some punya, some good future, materially speaking. There's nothing transcendental in that. Fine.
Yeah, fine. Thank you very much.
Vrindarani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, my obeisances. Why there are two disciplic successions, one for Raja Rishis and the other that we are following Brahma Madhva Gaudiya line?
The Rajarishi Parampara is not something which is, which is just like something which is formed naturally. There was a king who passed on the knowledge to his son, and then that son passed on the knowledge to his son. So there was a chain formed. That chain does have an origin, right? Either the Lord has begun it or some bona fide Acharya has begun it, some Vaishnava has begun it. So that chain will also be called as a parampara. So it's just our way of understanding that that parampara is based on dynasty, knowledge being passed from king to the prince, and then he becomes the king into the prince. So then it's called a Rajrishi Parampara, or the parampara of kings, saintly kings. That parampara is also a subset of the actual parampara system. Right? So when Krishna says here, knowledge was lost, parampara was broken, he was not talking about the eternal concept of parampara. He was talking about you appear in a particular dynasty. In that, this is broken. So I'm restarting it with you. Okay, there's a question in the chat box. Krishna says 3 external reasons of his appearance, and there's one internal reason that he appears to give pleasure to his devotees. So why doesn't Krishna himself mention this reason when he explicitly talks about bhakti and bhakta in the later chapters? Krishna does not speak everything in Bhagavad-gita directly. We should know that. And at the same time, he does not hide also. Hints are given. And Acharyas, they explain that this is what he wants to hint out or mention. So we should know that Bhagavad-gita was spoken in a crucial moment, and the knowledge had to be given in a very concise form. Also in a very general form or generalized form, right? Therefore, Krishna is speaking in a way that the acharyas can understand the internal meaning of what he is saying. And the general people will understand the general thing. So that's why not everything is explicitly mentioned. Indirectly, it's mentioned, Paritranaya Sadhana. All right, so we'll stop here. See you tomorrow.